Joining me now is the head striking coach at the MMA Lab based in Glendale, Arizona. It is the one, the only Eddie Chaw here on the program for the very first time. Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. So mostly what we're going to talk about today is Mackenzie Dern's debut. You were, of course, in her corner in Las Vegas this past weekend at UFC 222. She was the featured FS1 prelim, big spot for her, of course, going in 5-0, professionally making her octagon debut. As her striking coach, as just a guy who knows a lot about MMA, what is your overall assessment of her performance?
I thought she did well for her first in the UFC. We didn't get to work as much as we wanted to, and but I thought she did a great performance. I know we got a split decision. A lot of people are saying the fight was close and stuff like that. But looking back and watching it again, I thought she did win the first round and definitely win the third round. She lost the second, so I had her winning 29-28.
Yeah, the one judge that did have it for Yoder, not the best scorecard. That judge, was it Adelaide Bird? It might have been. So I guess no surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't see anybody giving her the third round, so I'm assuming that other judge gave her the first and second. But looking back at the first round, I mean, she was more aggressive. She landed more punches. She had the cage control, and things like that. So a lot of people are calling me saying, "Oh, that was a close fight," or some people said she might have lost. So I did go back and watch it, and I definitely thought that she won the first round.
Were you more impressed upon rewatching it than you were live, or vice versa, or was it sort of all the same?
Sort of all the same. I mean, she did good defending the left kicks. She threw the right hands, which we wanted to do. We wanted to pivot off to the left side a little bit more. But, again, it was her first time fighting in the UFC. It was her first time fighting a southpaw, first time fighting someone as tall as Ashley was. So, I mean, those are a lot of variables that aren't easy for her. She's never had any amateur fights, so she was 5-0. She has exactly 5 fights. So, I mean, expectations are high, and she's always going to be criticized because of that. But I thought she did a great job.
Do you think next time facing a southpaw, whenever that may be, she will do better facing, that style of fighter that she's not used to?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she's only going to get better from here on out. She's still young. She's growing. I think she's in her early 20s. So, this is all relatively new to her, and she's putting in the work. And, even working with Leo Vieira in the corner, like he was also saying that, point jiu-jitsu and MMA jiu-jitsu is a lot different. So she had to make a couple adjustments with Leo and Coach Crouch. So, she's only going to get better from here.
So we saw in her UFC debut last weekend, and even a couple fights before this one, that she has spent a lot of time standing up where she's still getting better. She's obviously amazing on the ground. She no one can really hang with her on the mat, but on the feet, it's definitely a closer fight. Do you think striking as much in the last fight as she did, is that a smart game plan? Is that how she's going to improve in the striking department?
I think in order to improve striking for anybody, it just takes a lot of time. You have to increase your fight IQ. You got to develop your hands. You got to be a little bit knowledgeable on which way to circle and develop the timing of it like anything else. So she's getting better. She's got great kicks. She's got power in her hands. She learns super fast. Anything that she does, she picks it up really quick. And she's been in martial arts her whole life. So, like I said earlier, she's going to get better in every fight that she does. She just has to prove in the off season when there is no fights. But yeah, again, she's only had 5 fights, no amateur fights, and every fight's have been highlighted. She's either the main event, before she's hit the UFC. There was a lot of hype on her, but she didn't feel any pressure. She was relaxed. I think she's used to the media and everything else, but there was a tremendous amount of I thought there was a tremendous amount of pressure to her. She's headlined the Fox card. All the interviews, they were comparing her to the next Ronda Rousey, and I don't know if that's necessarily fair to her, but she handled it really well, and she came out with a W, which is the most important thing.
On that point, she's still fairly inexperienced in the MMA world. Do you think this jump to the UFC was a bit too soon?
No, I don't think so. I mean, she picked up a lot of experience in those 5 fights. And we have, a lot of fighters. Augusto Mendes, Taquino, I believe he was 5-0 when he signed with the UFC as well. And there's quite a few other guys too. So it's just a matter of if you feel like you're ready. And we have the best ground girl in the world. So I mean, that definitely helps. And I think she was ready.
Okay. Now, something Derns showed in this UFC debut against Ashley Yoder is that, I mean, and we've seen it before, but she is so aggressive on her feet, on the feet in the striking department. She really gets after it, and she puts the pressure on her opponents. She did get dropped once in this fight very briefly against Yoder, but she certainly wasn't worried about standing up in this debut in her fights. Do you think that's good? Do you think her confidence in her aggression on the feet is a good thing?
Absolutely. There's some things you can teach and some things you can't. And her biting down and putting her chin down and actually throwing, it's pretty rare, especially early in your career, and to throw like that. So I think that's definitely a plus. And she's had great sparring partners. She has Lauren Murphy and Courtney Casey. They were alternating rounds for her. So Lauren's ranked number 2 right now in the 25 division, and Courtney's ranked top 15 for sure. And so it definitely helps. It definitely helps to have good sparring partners.
Absolutely. Something I know some people said the big sentiment coming out of any Mackenzie Dern fight is that she needs to improve her striking. And I mean, obviously, as a former jiu-jitsu champion and just a brilliant a practitioner on the ground, of course that's where she needs to work. But do you think it might actually be more important to improve her wrestling game and be able to secure those takedowns more and more so that can lead to her grappling? What is more important this very second, her wrestling or her striking?
I think it's both. I mean, every fighter wants to improve and needs to improve on striking or grappling. And of course, it's easy to say, yeah, she has the best ground game in the world. Let's work on wrestling so we can take her to the ground. But eventually, she's going to find that somebody that she's not going to be able to take down, and then she's going to be forced to strike. So I think she needs to work on all facets of her game, and that's exactly what she's doing. So it's just due time. It takes time to grow and everything else. So. I think she's on track of doing it the right way.
So as far as her training goes, it's sort of a balance. Like if you were to sort of estimate, wrestling compared to striking, it's 50-50.
Right, and it also depends on who she's fighting, but everything boils down to off season. I'm a firm believer in picking up a certain type of skill set when you don't have fights. So that way there's no pressure of we just have to do this for the game plan for this girl or that girl. And so again, I think she's on the right track, and she has a bright future ahead of her.
I don't remember if it was Daniel Cormier or Joe Rogan, but one of the commentators at UFC 222 mentioned and suggested the idea of Dern pulling guard throughout the fight. It was maybe in the second round when she was having a bit of troubles getting into the ground. Of course, she didn't really until the third round. Was pulling guard ever an option as far as her game plan goes?
No, not that I'm aware of. You'd probably have to ask Coach Crouch or Coach Leo, but that was never our intention. And I believe that, like we all believe that it was going to be a tough fight to submit her because Ashley is a brown belt and she's also a checkmate girl. So, and Coach Leo also knew Poncho, which is her head coach for jiu-jitsu. So we knew it was going to be a tough grappling match if it did hit the ground, if we were on the cage. But I think they were working more on cage control, as opposed to takedowns. And, but yeah, she did really good, I thought.
Yeah. And of course, this would probably be a perfect question for Dern, but I think you might be able to offer some sort of insight. Do you have any idea, if you've talked to Dern, is she content generally to be striking in her, recent fights to be able to show off her striking improvements, or is the ultimate goal in her fights to always get it to the ground where she's better than pretty much anyone?
I think she tries to play the fight as it goes. If they're going to give her, striking opportunities, she's going to take that. If they want to strike with her, she's going to take her down, So
it really just depends on, again, as you said, it depends on who she's fighting. If who she's fighting has extremely good takedown defense, maybe, as you said, that's why working on her striking as well is so important, because you don't know where the fight's going to play out.
Correct. Yeah, I agree 100%. There's been so many times for other athletes that, okay, we're going to work strictly on this, dealing with the southpaw, and then they come out right-handed, the conventional stance. We're going to just work on ground because we're going to take her down or something like that, and then we can't take her down. So that's what's so hard about this sport is that you have to be well-rounded. You got to be ready for everything.
Now, something I want to ask you that isn't totally related to Dern, but I think we see glimpses of this. And I'm not trying to, say that Dern has fallen in love with her striking and she's going to completely forget about her grappling game, but where she thrives. But we see some fighters go into MMA as not a one-dimensional fighter, but someone who is extremely good in one area and getting better in the other. Maybe they're an Olympic-level wrestler. I think one example is Henry Cejudo. He came in as one of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler at flyweight, and we see so much of his striking in the UFC. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because he's gotten really good on the feet, but I think there's probably some other examples out there that if I thought hard enough, I could find where they sort of fall in love with what they're not so great at. Do you have any ideas as to why that happens?
I have no idea. I mean, I think it depends on the individual and the fighter. I mean, some people see the improvement so much and they want to exploit that, or depending on the matchups, maybe they believe that they can knock somebody out or really take advantage of kicks or strikes, so they want to keep it standing. But that all depends on the individual and the coaching staff and what the game plan is. But I know for Mackenzie, I mean, we weren't saying, well, we're just going to take her down and try to submit her, or we're going to try to stand and bang with her to prove a point. She does a really good job of just asserting, what they give her, and she's still relatively new to the game, but I can tell you that she is improving in all facets of the game.
What do you want to see next for Dern? Of course, you're not going to be the guy who ultimately decides. It's mostly up to her, of course, as far as taking fights. But I'm sure you could, sort of give your insight and give your sort of take on, should I take this fight, should I not take this fight, etc. Do you want to see her get back right in there? Do you want her to be built up slowly? Or, I mean, could a fast track to the top be an option? What is next for Mackenzie Dern if you were, sort of playing matchmaker?
Ideally, I would just like her to train in the off season until she does have a fight coming up. I know her manager, Danny Rubenstein, they're already in the talks of figuring out what the next step for her is. So we just kind of go with the flow. We get a name and then we'll scout it out and say yes, or we'll take this one or that one, and that's pretty much what my job is, is to get it ready for the next fight. But that's kind of up to Sean Shelby and the manager.
Fair enough. I noticed the MMA Lab recently moved locations. How is the new facility?
It's great. It's a brand new facility. We're actually having a grand opening March 24th. I'm sorry. That's going to be on a Saturday. All our athletes will be there signing autographs. There's going to be food, free food, and everything else. So if anybody wants to come by, meet and greet the fighters and check out the new facility, everyone is more than welcome to come.
Of course, the MMA Lab is home to a lot of top fighters. You mentioned you'll be working a little bit later with Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, who has a fight coming up on April 7th against Artem Lobov. What else do you have coming up as far as who you're training? And I guess just so I can remember, what other Lab fighters are coming up?
I feel like it's almost every week. We got so many guys going. I know Johnny Case is fighting in Iowa this Saturday, and then we have... who is next? I know we got a bunch of guys on the Glendale card. We have John Moraga, Luke Sanders, Courtney Casey's fighting Michelle Watterson, and I think there's one more. But it's pretty stacked. So Alex Caceres is fighting in the Brooklyn card, I believe, and then he's fighting Artem Lobov, which is I think a great matchup for him. But yeah, we have so many guys, and it feels like almost every week somebody's out of town.
How often, out of curiosity, do you corner fighters that train at the MMA Lab?
We have a lot of great coaches there. We have Coach Allen, which is a boxing coach. Coach Ryan is, I call him the OG coach because he had over like 50 MMA fights. And so we got tons of coaches who's ever available to go, whoever the fighters ask, we pretty much, take care of them. And so I don't go out of town as much as Coach Krause. I don't know how he does it. You know, he's always out of town. So for me, it's just whatever needs to be done, and whoever asks me to go. But yeah, it's enough for me.
I mean, it's a busy life as a coach. I can't say that nearly as much as you or anyone else at the lab or any other gym said or would say. I mean, we've tried to book this interview early this week, and you have stuff going on, private lessons, and you're not even out of town every week, and it's still such a busy life.
Yeah, it is. It is. My wife's not too happy with the traveling, but you know, it just comes with the job. And when I was in California, you know, I'd go out of town maybe once every 3 months, and now it's once every 3 weeks to 5 weeks. So it's kind of careful what you ask for in life.
Yep, got to do what you got to do, though, to pay the bills.
Yes, sir.
Well, Eddie, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. This was a lot of fun talking about Mackenzie Dern's win and obviously what is coming up for the other MMA Lab fighters or some other fighters. Before I let you go, let my audience know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, any fighters, any other coaches, anyone, your family, friends, anyone, the floor is yours.
You can find me on Instagram at Eddie_Cha, C-H-A, and Facebook as well, just Eddie Cha. I'd like to thank the MMA Lab. That's pretty much my family here, and everybody that fought. Congratulations to Mackenzie's win, and Sugar Sean O'Malley. He had a great performance. He won the bonus that same night. So they're our up-and-coming stars.